every super weapon in Star Wars, Deathstar 1 and 2. The whole point of the Deathstar wasn't just to blow things up, it was fear. The Empire wanted the entire galaxy to know, if you rebel, we won't just kill you, we'll erase your entire homeworld like it never existed. And to prove their point, they aimed at Alderaan, a peaceful planet, zero military threat, and wiped it out in one shot. It gathers energy from smaller lasers across its surface, combines them into one massive beam, and fires with enough power to shatter planets. It's over 120 kilometers wide. Basically, it's a floating moon with a death ray. For all its power, the Death Star had one massive flaw. It was overkill. The Empire spent decades and trillions of credits making a weapon that could erase planets. But guess what? The rebels didn't have planets. They were hiding in small bases, moving constantly. The Death Star was built for fear, but against a guerrilla force, it was basically a sledgehammer trying to kill a mosquito. And when a well-placed shot from Luke Skywalker hit the weak spot, boom, gone. The Death Star turned into space dust in seconds. But the Empire doesn't take L's lightly, so they built Death Star 2. Bigger, meaner, and this time, with upgraded defenses. On paper, it was unbeatable, but here's the catch. It wasn't finished yet, and the rebels, they weren't about to let history repeat itself. With help from Bothan spies, they found out exactly where it was being built, and once again, they pulled up to ruin the Empire's plans. While Luke was busy fighting Darth Vader inside, the rebel fleet outside found the second weak spot and blew the whole thing up. Again? This time, the explosion didn't just destroy a space station, it destroyed the Empire's entire grip on the galaxy. Yet, the galaxy never seems to learn its lesson. Enter Starkiller Base, the First Order's answer to the Death Star, but on a scale so massive, it makes its predecessor look like a blaster pistol in comparison. Starkiller Base. The Death Star was terrifying, but the Starkiller Base made it look like a kid's toy. This thing didn't just destroy planets, it wiped out entire star systems in a single shot. After the fall of the Empire, the First Order rose from its ashes, so they took the planet Ilum, a sacred Jedi world rich in kyber crystals, and hollowed it out to create the biggest weapon in galactic history. Here's how it worked. It absorbed the energy of the sun, draining it completely. Then, it weaponized that energy into a hyperspace-ripping death beam. That beam could bend around spacetime and hit targets across the galaxy instantly. In seconds, Starkiller Base fired across the galaxy and annihilated the entire Hosnian system, wiping out the New Republic's capital before they even knew what hit them. Millions of ships, billions of lives, all gone in the blink of an eye. The people on those planets didn't even get a chance to run. 1 second they were there, the next, nothing. But like every superweapon in Star Wars, it had a fatal flaw. A resistance team, led by Poe Dameron, found a weakness in its thermal oscillator. With Han Solo and Finn leading a ground assault, the Resistance blew it wide open. And then, in true Star Wars fashion, one final attack from Poe sent the entire planet into chaos. With its energy reserves unstable, Starkiller Base collapsed in on itself, destroying the weapon before the First Order could use it again. Another over-budget galaxy-killing superweapon? Gone. Along comes the Galaxy Gun, a weapon so absurdly overpowered, it makes Starkiller Base look like a firecracker. Galaxy Gun. If you thought the Death Star and the Starkiller Base were the most powerful weapons in Star Wars, you're about to be humbled. The Galaxy Gun, a weapon so broken, it could snipe planets from the other side of the galaxy. Imagine a sniper rifle for planets, but instead of bullets, it shot nukes the size of skyscrapers. One of the first targets was the rebellious world of Ixals. The missile dropped out of hyperspace, punched through the planet's defenses, and annihilated it in seconds. The core collapsed, the surface shattered, and millions of people were wiped from existence. But here's where it gets crazy. The Galaxy Gun wasn't taken out by the rebels, it wasn't even destroyed in battle. It was taken out by its own missile. During a battle, the Empire fired another planet-killing warhead, but before it could jump to hyperspace, an explosion knocked the missile off course. Instead of vanishing into hyperspace, it hit the Galaxy Gun itself. The entire station was obliterated in a blinding explosion. The wreckage fell onto Biss, causing a chain reaction that completely wiped out the planet. The Empire's greatest weapon, destroyed by its own firepower. But the Empire wasn't done flexing its destructive muscles. Enter the Dreadnought. Eclipse-class Dreadnought. Built in the Dark Empire era, the Eclipse was Emperor Palpatine's personal command ship, equipped with thick black armor that made it almost indestructible. Its primary weapon was a miniaturized axial super laser based on the Death Star's tech, but with a key difference. It was designed for surgical strikes. Instead of obliterating entire planets, it could pierce through planetary shields and obliterate major cities in one shot. Unlike the Death Star, the Eclipse didn't need a full planet to show its strength. It could crack Star Destroyers in half and still keep going. This was Palpatine's dream. A weapon so powerful that nothing could challenge him. So, if this thing was so insane, why didn't it take over the galaxy? Simple, the Empire fell before it could. Palpatine had it built in the deep core, waiting for the moment when he would reclaim the galaxy. But before he could truly flex it, the rebels and the New Republic crushed his plans. Eventually, the Eclipse itself was taken out before it could change history. But the next superweapon is a man who can eliminate an entire planet in just a second. Darth Nihilus's fourth train. So picture this, a planet filled with billions of people, and in a matter of seconds, nothing. No screams, no ruins, just emptiness. This is the horror of Darth Nihilus's Force Train. To understand the horror of Darth Nihilus, you have to understand what he became. He wasn't a conqueror. He wasn't a ruler. He was a hunger. Pure, endless, and all-consuming. Most Sith Lords kill. Nihilus erased. His Force drain didn't just steal energy. It consumed entire civilizations in a heartbeat. No war, no warning, just silence. Here's how it worked. Nihilus would target a planet, and in moments, every living thing, every man, woman, child, was stripped of life. Their energy flowed into him, making him stronger, while leaving behind nothing. No bodies, no ruins, no survivors. Just a hollow, dead world. The worst example, the planet Qatar, a world populated entirely by Mirluka, Force-sensitive beings, who could literally see through the Force. If anyone had a chance of sensing the danger coming, it was them. But when Nihilus arrived, they never stood a chance. The entire planet was drained in seconds. Every single Mirluka was gone. Billions of lives. Only one person survived, Visis Mar, and even she didn't understand how. When she woke up, she wasn't just the last of her people. She was his servant, bound to the very thing that destroyed her world. But while Nihilus himself was a force of nature, the Sith of the past sought to vaporize that same destructive potential. Enter the Dark Reaper, a creation of the Great Sith War that took the concept of consuming life to a terrifying new level. Dark Reaper. During the Great Sith War, a Sith Lord forged the Dark Reaper, a weapon that drained the Force itself. Powered by the Force Harvester, it could strip entire planets of life. This thing was an infinite death engine. But no weapon is invincible. The Dark Reaper depended on the Force Harvester, and if you destroyed that, the weapon was completely useless. A Jedi named Ulic Kel Droma, who once served the Sith, revealed its secrets. With his help, the Jedi launched a desperate mission, destroying the Harvester in a brutal battle, and shutting down the Dark Reaper before it reached full power. Unlike the Dark Reaper, which fed on the Force, the Starforge was a machine of creation, a shipyard that defied the laws of physics. Eternal Rakatan's Starforge. It didn't need resources or time. It could conjure entire fleets out of thin air. You want 1,000 warships? Done. 1,000,000 droids? No problem. But here's the real problem. It corrupted everyone who used it. The longer somebody controlled the Force, the more twisted they became. Even the strongest Sith Lords couldn't resist its influence. It turned them into monsters, feeding on their greed and warmonger-like nature. And once the Sith got their hands on it, things got out of control. The Sith Lord Darth Revan took the Starforge for himself, using it to create an unstoppable fleet. The Republic had no chance. Every battle they fought, the Sith came back with twice as many ships. It was a losing war. But Revan was too smart. He knew something was wrong. The Starforge was making him more ruthless, more power-hungry. It was changing him. And so, he did the unthinkable. He turned on his own empire. Leading the Jedi, he launched a massive assault, triggering betrayals and brutal battles. In the end, they overloaded the system, sending the Forge crashing into its star. The Starforge's end didn't mark the end of such horrors. Instead, it set the stage for something even more insidious. Imperial World Devastators. After the fall of the second Death Star, the Empire needed a new way to strike fear across the galaxy. Not just a weapon, but an unstoppable force of destruction that could rebuild itself mid-battle. So, picture this, a floating fortress the size of a city, covered in claw-like tractor beams that rip apart everything below. Buildings gone. Starfighters crushed. Even entire rebel warships torn apart mid-fight. But here's the nightmare fuel. It doesn't stop there. The world devastators don't just destroy. Everything they consume gets rebuilt into new Imperial war machines, right there on the battlefield. The longer they stay, the stronger they become. At least with the Death Star, it's over in one shot. But with the world devastators, it's slow. It's painful. Watching your home be systematically devoured, that's psychological warfare at its finest. While the world devastators embodied the Empire's cold mechanical efficiency, the defoliator represented the Separatists' ruthless, surgical precision, erasing life itself with a single devastating blow. CIS defoliator. The defoliator was the ultimate war crime in a can. Imagine a weapon so advanced that it could disintegrate all living things while leaving droids completely untouched. Created by the Separatists, this monstrosity was specifically designed to wipe out clone troopers, Jedi, and anyone else in the way, while their droid army marched forward without a scratch. It worked by launching a plasma shell that exploded in a massive energy wave, instantly incinerating all organic life in its blast radius. Now, picture this. You're a clone trooper on the front lines, blasters firing, droids closing in. Suddenly, a massive tank rolls up, the defoliator tank. Before you even realize what's happening, boom! A wave of pure destruction rips through the battlefield. Your squad, gone. Your Jedi General, vaporized. The droids, still there, marching forward like nothing happened. That's the true horror of the defoliator. It didn't just kill, it left nothing behind. No bodies, no wreckage, just a battlefield wiped clean of life. And the Republic, they had no counter to this thing. If the CIS had mass-produced it, the Clone Wars might have ended in weeks. But they didn't, and here's why. So, why didn't this nightmare fuel of a weapon dominate the galaxy? Well, the Republic quickly realized how dangerous it was, and made sure it never saw mass production. A few prototypes were built, but thanks to some lucky strikes, they were mostly destroyed before they could be deployed at scale. Darksaber. A long time ago, before Jedi and Mandalorian started their never-ending beef, there was one guy who was built differently. Tar Vizsla. He was the first Mandalorian Jedi, and instead of using a standard blue or green lightsaber like a basic Jedi, he crafted something unique. A black-bladed saber. Shorter, heavier, and humming with raw power. This was the Darksaber. When Tar Vizsla died, the Jedi kept it locked away in their temple, until the Mandalorians said, "Nah, we're taking that back." And from that moment on, the Darksaber became more than just a weapon. It became a throne. Whoever wielded it ruled Mandalore. Unlike a normal lightsaber, the Darksaber isn't just a beam of plasma. It has weight, and the more doubt, fear, or anger you have, the heavier it gets. It's basically a sentient gym weight that punishes weak minds. It's also one of the deadliest weapons in close combat. The blade's unique shape makes it faster in duels, capable of slicing through anything in its path. This is why even legendary warriors like Darth Maul, Bo-Katan, and Din Djarin struggled to master it. But the real power of the Darksaber? It isn't just about combat. It's about control. Whoever holds the Darksaber holds Mandalore, and history has proven that Mandalorians don't just hand over power, they fight for it. The Darksaber has passed through more hands than a stolen Beskar spear. First, Pre Vizsla wielded it to challenge Obi-Wan Kenobi. Then, Darth Maul took it because apparently losing the lower half of his body wasn't enough of a flex. He used it to conquer Mandalore, proving that a Sith with a sword is still a dictator at heart. Fast forward a few years, and the blade lands in the hands of Moff Gideon, a guy who probably spent more time posing with it than actually fighting. When he faced Din Djarin, it was clear. Skill beats ego. Din won the fight, but ironically, holding the Darksaber made his life even harder. Even Bo-Katan, who desperately wanted it, refused to take it unless she earned it in battle. This wasn't just a weapon anymore. It was a cursed crown. At this point, the Darksaber isn't just a weapon. It's a game of hot potato where the loser dies. And while it may not be as flashy as a Death Star, it's a weapon that shaped the history of Mandalore for centuries. But, as powerful as a Darksaber is, it's nothing compared to the next superweapon on this list. Because while the Darksaber decides who rules a planet, this next weapon destroys planets. The Eye of Palpatine. The Eye of Palpatine, a massive automated dreadnought built to wipe out entire planets filled with Jedi. But here's the crazy part. It never even got the chance to fire. Unlike the Death Star, the Eye of Palpatine didn't need a giant laser to destroy planets. It was loaded with thousands of droids and firepower that could reduce entire worlds to rubble. But what made it truly terrifying was its AI. This thing ran entirely on its own, with one mission: track down and eliminate surviving Jedi. The Republic tried to stop it before it could launch, but Palpatine had one rule: his weapons were built to last. The Eye of Palpatine was programmed to activate decades later, long after the Clone Wars ended, and when it finally woke up, it was like a sleeping beast, ready to continue its mission, except for one problem. A Jedi spirit trapped inside a computer system managed to sabotage it from the inside. Yeah, Star Wars lore is kinda wild. Where the Eye of Palpatine was built to eradicate, Centerpoint was designed to create, or at least to rearrange. Centerpoint Station. Centerpoint was designed to move entire planets, and it played a critical role in forming the Corellian star system itself. Unlike the Death Star, which destroyed planets outright, Centerpoint's tractor beam technology could manipulate gravity on an insane scale. With a single activation, it could crush fleets, disable hyperdrives, or even drag entire moons across the void. But the real nightmare? Centerpoint had a hyperspace targeting system. If properly calibrated, it could fire a destructive energy pulse across the galaxy, annihilating fleets light years away, before they even knew they were under attack. But power like this always comes with consequences. During the Yuzong-Vong War, the station was activated to wipe out invading fleets. But something went horribly wrong. The weapon misfired, killing millions of innocent people in the process. The Republic knew they couldn't risk another mistake. So, instead of using the most powerful weapon they had, they shut it down. Next, the Sun Crusher. Sun Crusher. This thing didn't just destroy planets. It turned entire star systems into fiery graveyards. And the worst part? Nothing could destroy it. Imagine giving a nuclear missile launcher to a teenager with anger issues. That's basically what happened. Completely indestructible. Not even turbo lasers, black holes, or a super star destroyer ramming into it could scratch this thing. Armed with resonance torpedoes, which were like supernova nukes, one hit and the target star explodes, wiping out every planet in the system. Faster than most ships and small enough to fit inside a regular hangar, it was so powerful that even the Empire itself thought, yeah, maybe this is a bit much. Here's where things get insane. The Empire never actually got to use the Sun Crusher. Instead, a Jedi named Kip Duron stole it, and immediately went on a murder spree. Dude had a tragic past, got manipulated by a Sith ghost, and decided to use the Sun Crusher to obliterate an entire fleet of Star Destroyers. And then, he flew straight to Karita, a major Imperial stronghold, and detonated its sun. Imagine waking up, making coffee, and then suddenly, boom, your sun goes supernova, and your whole planet turns into space dust. Kip wasn't even in his villain arc. He was just angry. After committing enough war crimes for 10 lifetimes, Kip realized, okay, maybe this is a little too much. So, what did he do? Threw it into a gas giant. That's it. A weapon that could destroy galaxies, and its final resting place was inside a floating planet, doing nothing. This is like someone inventing the Infinity Gauntlet, using it once, and then just dropping it in the ocean.